Good evening, everyone. It is Matt Weaver with BibleTruthProject.com, and I'm going to just do a short video in response to some of the comments and also the video that I updated about Mount Sinai. So I had done the original video shortly after the trip where we came back, year and 3 months, something like that, and there were some issues that I had noticed, in my editing suite. It sounded different than it did when I uploaded it. So I already knew some people had complained about the sound, and there were some details that I wanted to add to it. But the initial video took off and was quite successful, and so it was kind of difficult for me to like stop that. So apologies for that. I did have the other video that I uploaded later that had the corrections in it, but I was like, it's getting, it's actually tracking here. So I left it and uploaded it, but I just activated the other one because the numbers are still getting out there, but it does have the corrections. And unfortunately, YouTube doesn't allow you to change videos. You can kind of do a redirect on numbers, but that's kind of it. So we're discussing Mount Sinai, I noticed one of the comments said that the real Mount Sinai is St. Catherine's down in Egypt. And at the end of the day, I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm not even a scholar. So my opinion versus what other people have to say, all I can do is present what I know, present what I've found, and present the truth that's relevant to me. And if you guys disagree with it, that's okay. There's no hard feelings. I mean, that's life. Some people do disagree. There are people that believe that the traditional site is correct, and but I would dare say that if you have questions, probably the most effective book on the subject is Joel Richardson's Mount Sinai. Let me just see if I have it here. I know I do somewhere. Um, Sorry, I should have pulled this out before I started. And I am not seeing it. I know I have it. Oh, where are you? Oh, well, we'll just leave it. It's Joel Richardson's Sinai book, and it does a really good job of packaging the information. Another one is Dr. Glenn Fritz's book on that subject as well, The Lost Sea of the Exodus. Sorry, I do have it. These are all great resources. So Glenn Fritz does a great job of covering a lot of ancient material. I think it's very impressive what he does. And so anybody who's serious about trying to understand these things needs to get what he has to say. And then here I have the book that I was referring to, Joel Richardson's book, Mount Sinai in Arabia. Highly recommend it. He does a lot of the same kinds of historical notes and things like that, etc. Excuse me as I do that. My apologies. I told you some of these videos are going to be informal. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's any other books I have. I know I have some. Um, Glenn Fritz also has a DVD. This is a great resource if you're into that. As well as Exodus Case by Dr. Leonard Moeller. Give me just a second. This one right here. Great book on the subject. Again, Leonard spent many years over there researching this stuff. He was at the location, and he does a very scientific approach to the case for the Exodus, as well as the location of Jebel al-Lawz. Anyway, so I say all that basically to tell you that there are more and more academics. When we were along, there were people in our group that were academics that were there were people that understood biblical geography that had degrees in that, and some of the conversations we had. And I'm not going to release names; it's not necessary. But some of the conversations we had was definitely like most scholars really don't take the traditional site that seriously, just because it's one of those things it's a little bit like Church of the Holy Sepulchre, It's been venerated for many years, but is it the exact spot? Technically it was still within the city walls of Jerusalem. I know it was outside of the city proper, but it's again one of those debates that when you really observe or look into it, some of these old traditions don't necessarily equal truth. And so we got to be careful. And same could be true for Mount Sinai in Arabia. However, it has a much better candidacy than the mountain over in the peninsula there by Egypt. Another option, I believe the name of it is Har Harkum, and a big advocate of that is the archaeologist Eli Shukran in Israel. He's a big advocate of that one. That's a possibility, but as I've seen the evidence, as I've seen what the Bible even records, the Yahweh from the south motif and those things, the Sinai and Arabia thing is very legit. The strongest evidence for that, without question, and any other, how would you say it? Any other source or any other site it has a huge problem dealing with is the Midianite issue, because Midian is where the mountain is located. Even in the Bible, if you go and you look at Moses, when he fled Egypt, He wasn't he didn't stay in Egypt. He fled Egypt, and he left Egypt and he went to Midian, and that was a leaving Egypt proper. The reason I bring that up is because the peninsula was still technically part of Egypt, and in the days of the pharaohs, they used to have signaling towers throughout that whole region. So that was still technically Egypt. He left that region to go to another region, which was in Midian. And ancient Midian was always northwest Saudi Arabia. And in those parts, which unfortunately have been closed to society for thousands of years, the Sauds are very closed. Had a closed society there for many years, but they kept a lot of traditions, and I was surprised to hear from the locals the amount of traditions they held in their handed down from generation to generation, which anybody who's an archaeologist or historian is going to find interesting, because as the area opens up because of NEOM, more and more people will go in, and a lot of this stuff is going to begin to come out, and people are going to begin to experience it and understand it. So I'm excited for that. And again, I appreciate comments and input. Of course, I'm not going to tolerate vulgarity or anything like that. I will delete those comments. I'll also delete comments that are kind of nonsense. Not because, I want people, don't want people to disagree. I have no problem if people disagree. I don't like a lot of social media today isn't civil, and it's very just disgusting, and it's not constructive. And I like constructive comments, and if you think the traditional side is the way to go, send some resources, link some resources, so people who follow this channel can look at that as well. Somebody also pointed about why I didn't give any credit in my videos. Well, I didn't do it as a documentary about the site. I did it as my trip. Okay. And in the beginning of the video, I say that I went with Ryan Morrow and Joel Richardson. It's not really the discovery. It's not really a discovery issue. We all know that the mountain's been around since the time of Moses. It's not like it has been lost, if you will. It's maybe been lost to our Western culture, but the locals have never really lost it. And I don't think it's appropriate for a Westerner to necessarily claim the title of rediscovery when the mountain was never really lost. Now, the people that were involved in rediscovering it, without question, I don't have any problems using the names there. You have Ron Wyatt, you have Jim Irwin, you have people further back. I think Charles Beck in the early 1900s had talked about these things. So these are not, just because there's modern day. I understand that the Caldwells, I'm wonderful friends with the Caldwells. They're amazing people. But people get really weird about claims. Other names you can throw out there is Ryan Morrow, Joel Richardson. There was a lady that lived there in the 70s. I can't think of her name. Andrew Jones has probably been there more than anybody in recent history. There's been all sorts of people. Glenn Fritz was there in the early 2000s. Leonard Mullard was there in the early 2000s. There's all sorts of people that have been to the site, so it's not like it's an exclusive. Oh, we have to give, we have to honor one specific person. All of these people contributed to understanding this, and these are not just everyday Joes. A lot of these people were academics. So I don't say that to belittle any position, or if somebody has a appreciation for a specific person or whatever, or discovery. Oh, I forgot Bob Cornuke. Can't throw that in. Can't leave that out. So Bob Cornuke and Larry Williams, another one. Those are all people that contributed to this site. To say that any of them discovered it is ridiculous. They did not discover it. Okay. And I don't say that to be brash or to be disrespectful. I say that because the locals have always known. There's a video of Bob Cornuke interviewing a guy from the 40s that flew during World War II, flew the king around, who they told him that's Mount Sinai. So the locals have known about this for generations, probably all the way back until the time of the Exodus. So I don't think it's fair, again, to put too much light on who the discoverer is. And my video wasn't about that. My video was my experience and my time and basically covering our trip. And this was the first fully sanctioned, fully legal Christian tour of Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, has made some ripples. There was just an article written about our trip and how I guess we were at the altar site and we sang some songs, and I guess the locals took some videos of that and put it on YouTube, and it's kind of been going viral. And there's talks about establishing a church in the Neom, not too far away. So, I absolute a miracle. God is really doing some amazing things in the area, and for some reason, He's allowed us to be part of the story. We can't take any credit for that. We're not special. We're not unique. We're not, I don't know. We're just right place, right time. By God's grace, we were able to participate in that. So I'm not making claims. I'm not making truth. Like, as far as claims that I found anything or unique or whatever, I was just witness to history, and I wanted you to enjoy that as well. So that's all for this episode. Thank you so much. And I'm going to be getting into some prophecy things. I want to cover some things of like Daniel and Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Hosea, and well, just use all of them. I want to start covering some of those things, and I have graphics I'm going to use for those. So I'm still working on those graphics, but as soon as those are done, I will have some more episodes for us to dig into, because I'd like to kind of tear that material apart and take a look at that. So God bless, and until next time.